Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Roseville City Council meeting and the Housing Successor meeting of May 21st, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. We'll start off with Vice Mayor Albert.
Here.
Councilmember Heldeshelt.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Acuti.
Here.
And Mayor Brunasconi.
Here.
And if I can interrupt, I got to do the closed session.
Thank you.
Good evening. The City Council met in closed session with Council tonight to discuss one piece of existing litigation, the case of David Montano versus Todd Martin Braden in City of Roseville, Sacramento County Superior Court, case number 23 CB 012178. The council was briefed on the case and provided direction to the city attorney's office. There is no reportable action under the Brown Act, and for the record, the meeting adjourned at 5:56 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight we have a City of Roseville employee who is retiring, but we can't let him go before giving him one last duty, and that's to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Larry Winter, would you please join us?
Please stand. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Carmen, would you please announce the meeting procedures?
Oops, sorry. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Roseville City Council meeting and Housing Successor meeting. Agendas are available at the end of the staff table to your right or online on our city's website. All comments from the audience should be directed to the City Council and not to any member of the public or any other staff member. All speakers must speak from the podium as this meeting is being recorded tonight. For items that are not listed on the agenda, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any item that is not listed on tonight's agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of our City Council. Public comments are limited to 25 minutes in the first segment, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. If the time limitation is reached in the first segment, individuals will have a second opportunity to make a public comment at the end of the meeting just prior to council comments. The Brown Act does prohibit our City Council from discussing, debating, or taking actions on items that are not listed on the agenda. All items appearing on the agenda per the Brown Act will have the opportunity for any member of the public to address and make a comment. Speakers will have 5 minutes to provide input that should be relevant to the item that is being considered tonight. There will be, all comments and time will be monitored, and once the red light begins to blink at the podium, we request that the speaker please conclude their comments. Lastly, if addressing the City Council tonight, please consider stating your name for the record. With that, welcome to the City of Roseville.
Yes, thank you.
The Levine Act
Oh,
disclosure.
sorry. Thank you. In addition to that, our meeting procedures also require us to express any Levine Act disclosures. Tonight, the Levine Act disclosure is that Vice Mayor Albert will recuse herself from voting on item 47 as it pertains to the Gathering Inn, as she received a campaign contribution exceeding $250 from the CEO in 2024. With that, we're concluded with the
Okay,
comments.
thank you. And tonight we have 2 presentations before we go into public comment. And the first one, we're going to start with you, Rana, and you want to meet me at the podium? Nice to see you. Okay, well, for those that don't know, Rana served as the CEO of the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce. She recently departed, found another position, which we're very happy for you. And tonight we want to present you with a resolution. And my the council colleagues will
begin,
get us
whereas
started.
Rana Godbon has served with distinction as the CEO of the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce for the last 3 years, and whereas Rana is an outstanding leader who has contributed so much to the city's business community, utilizing nearly 15 years of chamber experience to shape the Roseville area and surrounding regions, and
whereas Rana will continue her work to support businesses throughout the state in her new position with the California Chamber of Commerce as Vice President of Small Business Advocacy, and whereas Rana has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to the betterment of the community through her continuous support, advocacy, and collaboration with numerous nonprofit organizations, fostering partnerships that have strengthened the social and economic fabric of the community. And
Whereas Rana has been an active and invaluable leader committed to strengthening strategic partnerships with business leaders, government officials, and regional partners. And whereas Rana's contributions have also led to the launching of several new programs and initiatives focused on legislative advocacy and small business support that have strengthened the community's proposal value. And
whereas Rana has been a driving force in advancing workforce development initiatives, leveraging her innovative leadership to forge strategic connections between employers and educational institutions, thereby ensuring the development of a skilled and adaptable workforce to meet the evolving needs of the local economy. And whereas Rana should find great pride in seeing the results of her efforts in the region, and where her work will result in continuation of fostering and thriving well-connected businesses, community, and
Throughout her tenure as CEO of the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce, Rana's leadership, vision, and passion for thoughtful and strategic planning have inspired her colleagues and made a lasting impact on the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Roseville that Rana Godbond be commended for her outstanding service, leadership, and contributions to the betterment of the Roseville community and to the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce. We extend best wishes for continued success in your future endeavors, Rana. There's a resolution for you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's usually not hard for me to speak, but it is tonight. I'm going to first start by saying thank you to the outstanding leadership that we have at the city. It wasn't hard to do good work here in Roseville, and that is because of the community we have. I didn't do it alone. I remember standing here before you 6 months after I started my job, and that's how we launched the Workforce Development Initiative, because we had a city council that was responsive to the needs of the community, to the needs of the business community, and to their partnership with the chamber. I also was very blessed to have worked and served a 5-star accredited Chamber of Commerce that is recognized across the United States as 1 out of 5 in the state of California to have that distinction. Many thanks to the leadership of the board and the staff that really makes the chamber the incredible chamber it is, and many of them are here tonight. And I'm just going to say I couldn't have done it alone. I had a great team. I had great support. And I may have left my job for an opportunity that really knocked on my door that I did not pursue, that allows me to expand the work that I've done in one community to many communities across the state of California and strengthen local chambers. I'm going to say I remain a resident of the Roseville community and a proud resident of it. And I will continue to serve my community in many other ways. I'm still on the RPAL board and Stand Up Placer, and I will continue to serve the community in many ways, trying to keep it the community that we all enjoy. So thank you so much tonight for this honor and recognition. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here.
We have one more presentation this evening, and that's for you, Larry, so I'll meet you at the podium. One day for you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we had lunch together earlier. Okay, well, my colleagues will start us off.
Yeah, whereas Larry Winter has been a dedicated member of the City of Roseville team for nearly 30 years, and whereas Larry began his journey with the city in May of 1995, working in vehicle maintenance as a service worker, and
Whereas in July 1997, he transitioned to environmental utilities, joining the solid waste division as a maintenance worker and refuse driver. Over the years, Larry moved up the ranks, serving as a lead worker and later as the recycle coordinator. And whereas in February 2020, he brought his experience and passion for service to the fire department, stepping into the role of fire and environmental safety inspector, a position he continued to serve in with pride and professionalism until his retirement. And
whereas Larry was the definition of outstanding customer service. Whether he was helping fellow staff, working with local businesses, or engaging with residents, he approached every interaction with care, respect, and genuine desire to help. He has a gift for making people feel seen and heard, turning routine encounters into meaningful connections. And
whereas Larry was known for his positive attitude and infectious energy, and he lights up every room he walks into. He's more than a co-worker. He's a bright spot in the workday and a trusted part of the community. His enthusiasm lifts the team, and his kindness brings people together. And whereas Larry always willing to lend a hand no matter the task, Larry consistently went above and beyond. His commitment to the fire department and to the city is truly inspiring. He represents the very best of what the city stands for: teamwork, service, and community spirit.
Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Council of the City of Roseville that Larry Winter be commended for his 30 years of outstanding service and dedication to the City of Roseville and the Fire Department. We congratulate you for your many accomplishments, and we wish you a long, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. I know you have many of your colleagues here to support you. Some of them had to rush out. I heard a 911 call. But if you want to take a few moments, the floor is yours. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Well, 30 years goes quick. I would like to just mention some of the people that I worked with in the past who I really looked up to. I just think that their names should be mentioned here. When I worked in the garage, working under Fran Campbell, Bill Hart, Rich Stone, these were all people that I looked up to when I was working there. When I went over to EU, the city had this program where you could do mentoring. And so I did some mentorships with Sean Bigley, Ed Chris, Mike Zachariah, and then also working under Devin Whittington for a long time has just been amazing. I was always given opportunities to learn things and to just learn new skills, and I just really appreciate that. And then I appreciate Chief Barty allowing me to come over to the fire department. And then now under the leadership of Chief Harrigan, the leadership that we have over there is just amazing. These people that I work with there are like family, and you know it's hard to leave when you have family. And so I had a great boss while I was working there, Matt Walling, just an amazing guy, and he's the kind of people there in fire are like, when you see someone, and I'm sure you felt this way before, you see how they do things and you think, I want to be like that, or I want to do that. So I would always tell my supervisor, hey, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. So, and that just, I'm just saying that you're not too old to learn something new from anybody. And so the whole time I've been here, I've always learned and gained more knowledge and experience, and I'm so thankful for that, for me and for my family too. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. We will move on to public comment. I will just say that there's a room full of people, and I don't think that all of you are here for our entire council meeting, which is going to be a long one. So if anybody wanted to depart, I can pause for just a moment now would be a good time for you to leave. I'm not asking you to, but if you wanted to, now is a good time. And we'll move on to public comment next.
Don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. At this time, I have one speaker card. And again, public comment, we have at the beginning of the meeting, at the end of the meeting, and it's for any item that's not on the agenda. So if anyone wants to come forward, now would be your time. I'll call first Amelia Kelly.
Good evening, Council. I am here this evening out of fear of all of you. I had a discussion with Councilmember Rokuchi last week and was left feeling dehumanized, afraid, and unheard. I discussed many issues with the Councilwoman, but the scariest part of my conversation with her was when we would discuss the threat law enforcement presents to me if I were to experience a medical or mental health crisis in public, and was told my well-researched and legally precedented understandings of the real dangers to my person were simply my opinion and should be dismissed as such. I then had to break down step by step in public my mental and physical disabilities and how they interact and how that presents to the public, and how law enforcement arriving would just pour gasoline on the fire and put me and those around me at risk. Why? Why is it the de facto practice of this council to view mental health crises in public as potential crimes and automatic violent threats to others? Law enforcement has no business responding to medical emergencies because they are not medical professionals. When the actions of my sympathetic nervous system directly conflict with law enforcement training in response to people who do not obey commands, they will then make the encounter physical. I will then react with equal force, and I will be harmed or killed as a result because I can't control how my trauma reacts to armed people in uniform. I am not a criminal or a threat waiting for a victim. I am a human being with recently disabling medical conditions who deserves the same presumption of innocence and dignity that it was afforded to me when I was still able-bodied. When I am in public now in Roseville, I am terrified of having a medical crisis because in this city, I know I'm either going to face a $6,000 plus ambulance bill or state violence, but probably both. That is simply based on the current laws and practices in our city. So tired of having my governments at the federal, state, and local levels simultaneously consider me a burden, a parasite, and a violent threat to public safety because I exist outside of your comfort zone. The unearned audacity and arrogance to tell entire groups of people that our fears of death at the hands of police violence are unimportant because you feel a need to be protected from people like me is awe-inspiring. If you can't be open to new ways of viewing mental health, public safety, and community policing, why are you here? Because it isn't to represent people like me.
All right, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a comment on any item that's not on the agenda? Now would be your time. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Brandon Betancourt. I live in the Hillcrest neighborhood in Roseville. I wanted to talk a little bit about the recent point-in-time count, which measures the number of homeless people in Placer County. That number went up, and the percentage of people that are unsheltered went up too. I think the homelessness issue in California and in Placer County is well established. The point-in-time count is a relatively modest count compared to the real numbers. If you look at our homeless management system, it's probably closer. There's probably 2,500 people in that. If you look at McKinney-Vento numbers, which is how we count folks who are homeless in our school system, that number is 1,800. The driving factors behind homelessness can be attributed mostly to unaffordable rents, lack of low-income housing. And those are problems that I hope that the council is thinking about how to solve. I hope we're looking into building more affordable housing. But in the interim, because that is going to take a lot of time, I believe we are in desperate need of a shelter in the South Placer region. A work group got together, I think, around 2021, and the idea probably came well before this. And that group advocated for a shelter being created in the South Placer region. The conditions at that time are similar to the conditions that we have now. Homelessness right now in California, I think you need to make $39 an hour to afford the average rent in Placer County specifically. Homelessness is an issue that can affect any of us. It affects our neighbors, it could affect our children, and I think having a shelter near to the area where the majority of the homeless people in this county are, which is South Placer, is an important thing to do, and something that can actually help people get back on their feet, back into the workforce faster, if they can stay close to the area where they're from, to the job that they might have and want to keep. So I believe building that shelter in this region makes a lot of sense, and I believe building it in Roseville makes a lot of sense too. So I guess that's what I'm asking for you to consider. Placer County, I believe, is in full support of the project. Just doesn't have a location. I think Roseville's a great place for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a public comment? Now would be your time to come forward. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Jennifer Chapman from 707 Sunrise Avenue. And I just first of all wanted to say thank you so much for the follow-up on the concerns about the tree permit with the 705 Sunrise Avenue project. I did hear from planning today that the city arborist did go out and took a look at the project area and the trees, and the applicant will be anyway, hopefully remeasuring the trees and measuring trees that hadn't originally been part of the report. So anyway, I appreciate that they're following up on that. I also just want to say we had a great meeting at the terraces with Jason from Public Works, Jason Tchaikovsky. We had, been addressing different aspects of the traffic situation and the pathway along the creek and just some other concerns. He did mention that that Kirby Creek, I guess, is sort of due for some restoration work, possibly even some already envisioned work associated with FEMA funding for flood control. It's very, very clogged with non-native and and other plants. And I just also want to say the Dry Creek Conservancy is an incredible, just local conservation partner, and I did go on a great educational tour with them of Miners Ravine. I think that was last weekend. But anyway, they're just a great group, and probably would be interested in helping with many restoration projects. And just on the traffic issues that we talked about with Jason, I did see, and I'll be following up with that department, but there within the city over at where Hostley Academy is, there is a very interesting traffic control keep clear zone at an intersection of where the school is there, White Avenue and Auburn Boulevard. And I'm just sort of mentioning it here, and we'll follow up more on that. But I think that's something along the lines that we're thinking that we need to kind of mitigate the traffic concerns at the entrance to where the senior community is on Sunrise Avenue there. And just again, a school zone and a residential zone is not supposed to have more than 25 miles an hour. We have 35 miles an hour, and it's often people going faster than that just because it is such a major artery there on Sunrise. So hopefully we can mitigate that. But I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for public comment? Good evening.
Hello, my name is Evie Panesci. My father was Aldo Panesci Jr. I don't have anything Roseville or politically related to bring up, just the fact that my mom and I wanted to show our appreciation for adjourning in his memory today. Unfortunately, we're not able to stay till the end, but we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of his passing. And in true Aldo fashion, we are showing up to the event saying hi and then leaving. But for those of you who knew my dad, I hope that you remember him as a passionate public servant. For those of you that maybe didn't know my dad, that was probably by design. He really liked to work behind the scenes in the shadows, and he didn't do any of this for the glory or the recognition. He just was a born and raised Roseville kid. From a family that was very passionate about local politics and fostering community. And so within this very difficult time where we are sort of reaching this understanding that, my father is no longer as involved in local government, in local nonprofits and other fundraising events. I really encourage you and everybody in this room to get involved with your region. If you love this community, there's so many ways that you can carry on the torch. In some ways, my dad would have been appreciative of this night, but at the same time would have been so embarrassed and so like, this isn't even, we could be doing so much more. And so I really do encourage everybody, if you are able, please, get in there and get dirty, and please help make sure that this region can be as good and wonderful as it can be. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Evie. Your dad was certainly proud of you, and I know he's proud of you right now. So you represent him very well. And thank you for being here tonight, too, Leslie. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? Now would be your time to come forward. If not, we'll close public comment, and we will return to public comment at the end of our meeting. So with that, We will move into the consent calendar, and I'd like to ask our clerk to please read the procedures for the consent calendar.
Thank you. All matters on consent are considered routine in nature and will be approved by one motion of the City Council. There will be no discussion on consent calendar items unless a member of the City Council, staff, or a member of the public requests that a specific item be removed or pulled from the agenda for further discussion. At this time, we've had neither council or staff make a request. Is there any member of the public that would like to request an item from consent be removed for further discussion tonight?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Seeing that there's no one, consent calendar items are item 3 through 43. We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Haldeshell. Can I get a second for approval?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Cucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item that we have before us is the council discretionary funds. We have a request for Sober Grad Night sponsorship.
You want me to do that? Thank you. So we did receive a request, the council received a request for council discretionary funds in the amount of $500 for 4 Roseville area high schools, those being Roseville, Wood Creek, West Park, and Oakmont, for sponsorship in support of their Sober Grad Night event that is hosted by each school on a yearly basis. There's no further report on this, so I don't know if we have representatives here today, but before the City Council is a recommendation to approve council discretionary funds for each of the schools.
I move to approve.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry, is there any
We
public?
got to open it for public comment.
Got ahead of ourselves. Okay, open up to public comment. Does anyone want to comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. And we have got a couple parent representatives, if you wanted to combine or come forward and say a few words.
Hi.
Good evening.
I'm Amy Pedersen. I've never done this before, and it's so great to be here. It's a whole different way of life, so.
Welcome to the dark side, huh?
Thanks. I'm Roseville High School, and I am a mother of a graduating senior, and somehow I took over this job, and it's overwhelming. However, keeping our kids and our graduates safe is very, very important to us. And so the ability to have additional funds, not only to supply the opportunity for people who can't attend to attend, but also to support that sobriety, at least get them through, graduation, and support them as they enter the next chapter of their lives is really, really important to us. So I appreciate you considering it and the opportunity to be here and talk with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leah Pryor. I'm the booster president for Oakmont High School. I brought our treasurer, Darren Hughes. I want to thank you all for, I'm not going to go on because she just said everything just perfectly. So again, we really are excited about offering once again this event for our seniors. It is an expensive event, so this is going to help tremendously with getting us through all the expenses that we have to put forward to it. So again, thank you for that, and we do look forward to years to come working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for being here tonight, especially on a very busy school calendar month. So the council every year has $15,000 in our discretionary fund account, and at this time, our balance is $9,800.
Yep.
So do we have a call for a
Okay.
motion?
Yes, at this time, if I can get a motion, I'm sorry. So at this time, on item 44, the City Council will consider the recommendation to approve council discretionary funds for the Safe and Sober Grad Night event for Roseville, Wood Creek, West Park, and Oakmont High Schools in the amount of, is it $500 that we're agreeing to?
I think the request is $500, and that would be times 4, right?
So yes, $500 to each school for their Sober Grad Night event. So can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Albert.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Haldeshell?
Yes,
Councilmember
absolutely.
Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item before us is the Roseville designation of fire hazard severity zone map.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Fire Chief Ryan Harrigan, joined tonight by Division Chief and Fire Marshal Mike Bradley. And this agenda item is to introduce for first reading an ordinance to designate moderate, high, and very high fire severity zones within the City of Roseville as required by the California Government Code. State Fire Marshal is required by Government Code 51178 to identify areas as moderate, high, and very high fire hazard severity zones based on consistent statewide criteria and fire behavior expected under extreme conditions. The zones are used for several purposes, including to designate areas where California's defensible space standards, wildland urban interface building codes, and hazard disclosures are required. Fire hazard severity zones were first introduced in 1982, requiring classifications of lands located within state responsibility areas where the state has financial responsibility for wildland fire protection and prevention. Prompted by the Oakland Hills fire in 1992, the legislature extended the requirement to identify very high fire hazard severity zones in local response areas with AB 337, also known as the Bates Bill. Local response areas include incorporated cities and urban regions where local government is responsible for wildfire protection and suppression and prevention. More recently, legislation including SB 63 and AB 211 amended the government code to include the classification of moderate and high fire hazard severity zones in local response areas. It also added the requirement for local agencies to designate the zones by ordinance within 120 days of receiving the maps from the State Fire Marshal. To establish fire hazard severity zones, the State Fire Marshal uses a model that has two key elements: probability of an area burning and expected fire behavior under extreme fuel and weather conditions, with an emphasis placed on ember spread. Next slide, please. So it's important to note here that fire hazard severity zones evaluate hazard and not risk. Hazard is based on physical conditions that create expected fire behavior over a 30 to 50 year period without considering short-term modifications or mitigation measures. To evaluate hazard, the State Fire Marshal and CAL FIRE developed a model that evaluates several factors, including vegetation type, terrain, climate, predicted flame lengths, and area fire history over a 30 to 50 year period. Risk, on the other hand, is potential damage fire can do in an area under existing conditions, and risk does account for modifications such as fuel reduction projects, defensible space, ignition-resistant building construction, and so on. So in other words, the risk of a severely damaging fire can be and often is mitigated in known hazard areas. Some of the more common mitigations we use here in Roseville include community design standards, a predominantly underground electric utility, a robust water supply system, our annual weed abatement efforts, and the Class 2 ISO fire department. The government code allows local agencies to increase the level of fire hazard severity zones within the jurisdiction, but prohibits the agency from decreasing the zones. Next slide, please. This map shows the fire hazard severity zones for the City of Roseville as determined by the State Fire Marshal. Non-wildland areas are shaded in green, moderate are yellow, high hazard zones are orange, and very high hazard zones are red. As is demonstrated by the map, the vast majority of the city is not designated as a fire hazard severity zone. In total, there are 4,765 acres designated as moderate, 44 acres as high, and no acres designated as very high fire severity within the City of Roseville. If we translate that to parcels, there are 7,283 parcels in the moderate zones, 100 parcels in high, and again, no parcels in very high severity zones. These designations represent less than 13% of the city's total jurisdictional area. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll focus on the requirements for high and moderate only, as very high fire hazard severity zones do not currently apply in Roseville. And understandably, very high zones also carry the most stringent requirements for development, home hardening, and defensible space, but again, those do not currently apply in Roseville. So zone adoption is required in all zones. In high fire air hazard severity zones, California Wildland Urban Interface Building Codes apply to the design and construction of new buildings. These ignition-resistant construction features are codified in Chapter 7A of the California Building Code. Of those 100 parcels that are in High and Roseville, they are all currently developed. Property owners are also required to make natural hazard disclosures as part of real estate transfers for properties located in high fire hazard severity zones, similar to you would as a flood disclosure. Moderate fire hazard severity zones carry no additional requirements beyond zone adoption. So our adoption timeline, this slide outlines that timeline. Placer County was in phase 1 of the fire hazard severity zone rollout plan. Roseville received our maps from the state fire marshal on February 10th. The fire department reviewed the maps and published them on March 12th for public review and comment, also required by the government code. To date, we have only received a single comment on the hazard severity zones. May and June have been reserved for your consideration to adopt the zones by ordinance. And finally, if adopted, a copy of the ordinance designating the zones within Roseville will be provided to the state fire marshal by no later than July 10th. That concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll open to the council. Does the council have any questions for staff?
I do, just a quick question. You know, the hazard zone modeling includes extreme weather conditions, and I assume that's wind?
Yeah, so predominantly wind, with that emphasis on ember cast. Embers are well known to go, miles out ahead of the fire. So yeah, wind would be the big factor there, as well as low relative humidity and high temperatures.
So regardless of the color of the zone, our residents should be vigilant, right? Especially with the 4th of July coming up, other celebrations. I mean, we were at an event on Sunday, and there was a fire just up in the Sunset area. That, I don't know what the cause was, but certainly was windy that day. So.
Yeah, so we always encourage vigilance, especially as we get into the active burning seasons. And as you noted, we see an early start this season.
Any other questions, council?
I had one. If we adopt the mapping here and that we have and give it to the state, are we also allowed to put list mitigations we do, or they just want to know areas?
Yeah, so what the code requires and what the state fire marshal asks is that we submit a copy of the ordinance and our adopted map and nothing else.
Because we do a lot. I know it. Thank you.
If the council doesn't have any other questions, I'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time.
Hi, Jennifer Chapman again. I will just say this is a topic that I've been involved with many years, really back since 2001, which was it launched the National Fire Plan. And anyway, I've just done a lot of fire stuff. And the first thing I just want to say is, you look at that map and it really makes you feel like fire's not an issue because so much of it is just called not wildland, and so it's not an issue. But so then I want you to think of Lahaina. I don't think that would be characterized as, wildland either. But the point is that building materials, anything combustible, is a fire issue. And so it may not be that there's wildland vegetation, but you have burnable materials. And so I'm glad that you brought up that, yes, we have a lot of red flag days. We're in, Central Valley, California. There's a lot of fire weather, certainly, coming over the mountains and going to the ocean. And so I think what I understand is that this is a first reading, so there's more just time to kind of, let this all sink in. But I do feel like the public education piece, I know, I guess it was out there. I mean, this was something I started requesting, back in January, actually, because I went to the website and it said fire severity, and, it was blank. Nothing was there. And I didn't know all the, everybody was anticipating getting something in February. Eventually, Greg at Planning showed me something, in the office there, but I never actually received it because I guess it was still draft. So I did public records requests about this topic and never really got anything, I guess, because in my window of that time, nothing was really considered finalized. But I just am saying, I went to the website today. I got the PDF that was part of the agenda packet. The colors are different. It's confusing. The website doesn't, it's confusing. And anyway, the colors don't match. And when you go to the PDF that was part of the agenda packet and you see red in the legend, very high severity, the only thing that's red is the highways. And so, I'm sitting here just acknowledging the visual confusion that some people might have. And of course, highways, vehicle ignition is an issue, and chains and all those things. So I just think that, as far as the public education information side, that there's definitely more to do on that. And it's difficult to navigate. I think, whoever is looking at this in the fire department, just look at it on the website, look at it on the phone, and just understand the phone is most of how people are accessing this information. And so it's really important to be looking at how people are learning about it on their phone as well as the website. And I think that those are my main points, and my time is up. But thank you. I'm glad, and I hope there's more time again. Not necessarily make major changes to the map, but to maybe make major changes to all the information surrounding it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, we'll close public session or public comment, bring it back to the council. Any other further deliberations? We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for first reading. Do you want to read that? Carmen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. On item 45, the City Council will consider the recommendation to introduce for first reading an ordinance designating moderate, high, and very high fire hazard severity zones within the city of Roseville. If I can have a motion to.
So moved.
Introduce. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with the second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 46, Grants Advisory Commission, fiscal year 2025-26 funding recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Toby Thomas, a management analyst in the City Manager's Office, and I'm here tonight to present to you the Citizens Benefit Fund and the REACH grant funding recommendations from the Grants Advisory Commission for fiscal year 25-26. Brief history regarding the CBF Fund. In 1993, the City Council established the Citizens Benefit Fund with funds that were received from the sale of the city-owned Roseville Community Hospital. The council at the time voted to place the proceeds of the sale into an interest-bearing account and give 90% of the interest available annually to nonprofits for the purpose of improving the quality of life for the citizens of the city of Roseville. The remaining 10% is deposited back into the Citizens Benefit Fund to grow the principal. The Grants Advisory Commission was created in 1994 with the Citizens Benefit Fund providing over $17 million to local nonprofits. REACH, or the Roseville Employees Annual Charitable Hearts Fund, American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA Fund, and in the past years, the Roseville Auto Mall Community Fund provided another $1.6 million. With a total of over $19 million that has been granted directly to nonprofits in our community that serve our residents and improve quality of life through a variety of programs and services. City Council approved the current grant funding priorities 5 years ago, which reflect the community needs analysis that was completed in 2020. On April 8th, 2025, the Grants Advisory Commission held their funding workshop, which determined funding recommendations based on scoring and the established 3 funding priorities. Strategic one-time grants to be used for innovative projects or programs, capital improvements, or new initiatives. Operation mission support for programs or projects that address a community need and have demonstrated effectiveness, and small requests up to $10,000, which can go towards either new programs, projects, or support existing operations which have demonstrated effectiveness at meeting community needs. The city received a total of 32 applications requesting $859,147, split between the 3 priority groups. Staff reviewed all applications, and 5 were either deemed incomplete or did not qualify. The commission reviewed a total of 27 applications, requesting a total of $587,677. Even though increased CBF funds were available for this round. Unfortunately, the ARPA funds are no longer available, and the REACH funds have decreased as employees are directly donating their contributions to specific nonprofit organizations. It was still very challenging for the commission to decide which applications received the $288,010 total funds available. The Grants Advisory Commission recommends funding 17 of the 27 eligible applications. There were no applications to score in the strategic one-time grants category due to either being incomplete or ineligible applications. This slide shows the small request priority group, which 5 of the 6 applications are recommended for funding, totaling $22,117. In operational mission support category, 12 of the 21 applications are recommended for funding, totaling $265,893. The submitted applicants addressed 4 of the 5 social determinants of health, which are access to food, health and wellness, community and social context, and education, all supporting a wide range of services for youth, family, and seniors in the Roseville community. At this time, staff recommends the City Council approve the fiscal year 25-26 Grant Advisory Commission's recommendations to fund 17 grants in the amount of $288,010. Upon approval, the grants awards will be formally handed out at the August 12, 2025 Grants Advisory Commission meeting. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I do have Vice Chair Nina Acosta in the audience if you have any further questions as well.
Thank you, Toby. Does the council have any questions of staff before we open it to public comment? No. Okay. I'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back to the council for further deliberations. Or we can have a motion.
So at this time, on item 46, for this Roseville Police Assistance League, there is a conflict that exists for Vice Mayor Albert, as her spouse is on the board. Councilmember Rakucci also has a conflict as she's an alternate on the board, and Mayor Bernasconi also has a conflict as she's a member of the board. As a result, we do not have a quorum. At this time, I'm going to ask our city attorney to please provide further guidance.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. So we need a quorum to be able to vote on this item. And because we do not have a quorum, because we have 3 council members that have conflicted out, the law has a rule of necessity that says that we can draw lots by randomly pick a council member who has a conflict to make up a quorum and then recuse the other 2 council members. So what we're going to do is we're going to randomly pull out of a bag. There we go. Okay. The three council members who have conflicts of interest, they're in the bag. We're going to pull a name, and that council member is going to stay in the room and vote on this item, and the other 2 council members are going to leave.
Who's going to pull?
Carmen will pull.
And that's just on the Arcona one.
That's just our pal.
I mean, our pal.
This is really technical.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Oh, I guess
stay
I'm
in the room.
This is
and
a survivor.
Mayor Bernasconi and Vice Mayor Karen Albert will leave the room for this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So the record will reflect that Vice Mayor Albert and Mayor Bernasconi have left the dais and will not participate on the discussion or the vote for ARPEL. With that, at this time, the City Council will consider approving the Grants Advisory Commission recommendation to fund the Roseville Police Assistance League, or ARPEL, from the Citizen Benefit Fund in the amount of $13,306. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Councilmember Haldeshelt,
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yep.
And Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to
Okay,
go
we'll
get
ask them
Karen.
to return. And On this same item, Mayor Bernasconi has recused herself as she has a conflict with Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center and Stand Up Placer, as both organizations have been clients. The record will reflect that Mayor Bernasconi will not participate on the discussion of the vote for both Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center and Stand Up Placer. With that, the City Council will consider approving the Grants Advisory Commission recommendation to fund the Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center in the amount of $30,000 from the Citizen Benefit Fund. Can I please get a motion?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. I have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Behelderschelt.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
And Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Next, the City Council will consider approving the Grants Advisory Commission recommendation to fund Stand Up Placer in the amount of $20,500 from the Citizen Benefit Fund. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start a roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Behelderschelt.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
And Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Now that all council members are present at the dais, the City Council will consider the recommendation to approve the Grants Advisory Commission's recommendation to fund the remaining 14 of the 17 grant applications in the amount of $220,204 from the Citizen Benefit Fund and $3,300 from the Roseville Employee Annual Charitable Fund. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Behelderschelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we will move on to item 47. Thank you, Toby. Housing Successor Agency City Council Fiscal Year 2025-26 Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Funding Recommendations. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. I'm Tricia Isom, Housing Manager, and tonight I have with me Susanna Krell. She's going to be presenting the funding recommendations for the City of Roseville and the City of Rockland's Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Funding.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the City Council. I'm Susanna Krell, Housing Analyst in the Economic Development Department. Tonight, I'll be representing the 2025-2026 Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Funding recommendations. HPRR was established in 2017 with an initial 3-year commitment from Sutter Health's Getting to Zero campaign. Services provide temporary assistance to prevent households from becoming homeless, as well as assistance in to obtain permanent housing for those who are currently experiencing homelessness. Through this grant program, the city's internal homelessness team, the city's leadership in Built for Zero movement, and collaboration with Placer County's Continuum of Care, we are better equipped to prevent and address homelessness here in Roseville. Housing successor agencies are allowed to use up to $250,000 per year on homeless prevention and rapid rehousing. Roseville has used the maximum, what we call low and moderate income housing asset fund, or LOMOD funds, for this purpose since 2017. In 2020, Roseville applied for and was awarded state permanent local housing allocation fund for a 5-year period for both Roseville and Rockland. Housing successor LOMOD funds and the PLHA funds will infuse over $3.7 million into the community over the 5-year. We're thankful for our partnership with City of Rockland and their willingness to allow us to apply for and manage these funds on their behalf. The Roseville Housing Division received 8 applications in response to the 2025-26 HPRR Notice of Funding Availability. Applications were reviewed using criteria from prior years, as well as City Council's direction to place the greatest weight on measurable outcomes. The review panel consisted of staff from City of Roseville Housing and from City of Rockland Community Development Department. Measurable outcomes considered include number of clients served and housed in relation to overall cost per client, cost per beneficiary and leveraging other resources and funding, collaboration and coordination with local partners and with the cities, and needs or gaps in service and serving populations with multiple barriers to housing. This program assists us in getting and keeping families housed. In combination with the countywide Built for Zero movement, these efforts have resulted in permanently housing 524 residents over the last 4 years. This includes 133 veterans, 40 of the most vulnerable, and 351 experiencing homelessness chronically. Funding requests totaled over $1.6 million. Given the limited funding available this year of less than $600,000, the selection process was particularly challenging. Funding recommendations are as follows. Ask, which is AMI Housing, St. Vincent de Paul and Kids First, $375,000. Latino Leadership Council, $25,000. The Gathering Inn, $125,000. And Salvation Army for $20,000. Tonight, we recommend that City Council adopt a resolution to approve funding recommendations for the 2025-26 Homeless Prevention Rapid Rehousing Program and authorize City Manager to execute all related grant agreements. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much. Does council have any questions of staff before we go into public comment? Okay, public comment time. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment on this item? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is David Loy. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for the Gathering Inn, and I just wanted to let you know how grateful the Gathering Inn is for your consideration of funding our program. There is no greater joy in my life, in the life of our staff, and that is seeing families and individuals overcome addictions, behavioral health issues, things that have brought them down to the deepest despair in one's life. And when we see them get housed into sustainable housing, that joy that we get, that we have contributed to them turning their lives around, is amazing. And that would not be accomplished if it wasn't for your heart to continue to support us and your continual financial support. I personally, and speak on behalf of all the staff, am just very, very grateful for all that you've done throughout my 25 years doing this in the city of Roseville. So thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and especially to your staff. They do yeoman's work. Stellar, stellar staff the city of Roseville has. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Good evening.
Brian Burkett. I used to be homeless in my mid to early 20s, and you call it a social experiment, whatever you want to call it, but that's where I was then. And I just want to say that I'm very happy to live in a city that deeply cares for whoever's living in it, even those who are unhoused. And I know that that can be taken advantage of, and there's a push and pull between holding out resource and the ability to climb out of a hole, and also knowing that some would take advantage. Just thank you for the good faith to constantly give opportunity for those that want to have the quality of life that we're known for. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this item before we close public comment? All right, we will close public comment. Bring it back to the council.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Okay, how do we do this? Okay.
But she's going to
I
have
think
to.
I have a. You have a conflict? Do I have a conflict?
On what? Which one? 47.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, just
Oh, okay, thank you. So on item 47, pursuant to the Levine Act, Vice Mayor Elbert will recuse herself from voting on the Gathering Inn, as she has received campaign contributions exceeding $250 from the CEO in 2024. So we're going to ask Vice Mayor Elbert to please exit the room. Thank you, The record will reflect that Vice Mayor Albert will not be participating in the discussion or the vote for the gathering in. So at this time, the City Council will consider approving funding recommendations in the amount of $125,000 for the gathering in. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start a roll call with Vice Mayor Haldeshelt. Councilmember Haldeshelt.
Elevated.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Out of a bag, I guess.
Thank you. Now that we have all of council present, at this time, the City Council will consider the recommendation to adopt Resolution 25-147, approving funding recommendations for the remaining organizations and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute all grant agreements on behalf of the City of Roseville. Can I please have a motion to approve?
I'll move that item.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start a roll call with Vice Mayor Elverd.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 48, Capital Improvement Program Proposed Budget Preview for the fiscal year 2025-26. We have our Public Works Department,
This one.
Works and Rec, our Utility. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. My name is Jason Shaykowski, and I'm your Public Works Director. It's my pleasure to introduce to you tonight the city's fiscal year 26 capital improvement program. This year will be a little different than previous years in that additional department directors and representatives are joining me to share selected projects from each of their departments. The highlights will be grouped by department, starting with Public Works, and then moving on to electric, environmental utilities, and parks, recreations, and libraries. We will also pause between each group for questions that you might have. However, before we start with the Public Works items, please allow me to provide you with an overview of the citywide high-level proposed project budgets. This year's CIP funding request consists of 42 new projects and adjustments to 52 existing projects across multiple departments, totaling $99 million in fiscal year 26 and $576 million over the next 5 years. Specific amounts are broken out on the displayed slide by department and time period. Also in tonight's presentation is an overview of non-capital multiple-year projects, which includes things like routine maintenance of facilities, bike trails, open space roadways, as well as equipment repairs and technology that do not meet the capitalization threshold. This year's non-capital project funding request includes 30 new projects and adjustments to 18 existing projects across multiple departments. The total amount of non-capital project funding requested for fiscal year 26 is $20 million. With a projected total of $50.8 million over the next 5 years. As with the capital projects, the non-capital projects are broken out by department and time period as displayed on this slide. So looking at specifically at Public Works projects for fiscal year 26, there are $7.6 million in capital projects and $9.9 million in non-capital projects for a total request of $17.5 million in project funding requests for Public Works. The first Public Works project I want to highlight is the Police Department Facility Expansion Project, which is managed by our Facility Services Division. The project will provide new public and secured police parking, the acquisition and improvement of Corporation Yard Road from Placer County, and tenant improvements expanding the training and locker room areas. The estimated cost of the project is $11.1 million and is funded by the Public Facilities Fund and General Fund Rehab Funds. Design work will begin later this year. Next, I want to provide a few examples of facility services rehabilitation type projects included in this year's budget request. This budget proposes $600,000 in fire station rehab work, including fire station number 1, interior paint and wall cladding, fire station number 2, trellis, landscaping and minor updates, fire station number 4, interior and exterior paint and roll-up door, and fire station number 6, exterior paint. Facility services projects are generally funded through the Facilities Internal Service Fund and the General Fund Rehab Fund. Public Works Fleet Services is requesting funding to complete a $564,000 expansion to our light-duty fleet charging capability at the Corporation Yard in order to charge the additional electric vehicles being added to our fleet as a part of the state's electrification mandates. This project will increase our charging capacity at the Corporation Yard by another 39 ports. Fleet projects are funded through the Fleet Internal Service Fund. $2.2 million in traffic mitigation fees are being requested to complete design and construction of the Westbrook Boulevard Signal Installation Project, which will convert 5 stop-controlled intersections on Westbrook, south of Pleasant Grove, to signalized intersections. This will provide for smoother travel along Westbrook between Blue Oaks and Baseline Road. The project is currently in design, and we hope to start construction next spring. Public Works is also requesting funding for 3 major resurfacing projects. The first is a request for $1.4 million in fiscal year 26 to complete design and partially fund the resurfacing of the Los Cerritos Roseville Heights neighborhoods. The estimated total cost of this project is $3.6 million, and it'll be funded with state gas tax, with work planned for next summer of 2026. The fiscal year 27 budget will include a request for the remaining $2.2 million needed to complete the project. The second resurfacing project covers 2 arterial roadways, Fairway Drive from Stanford Ranch to Blue Oaks Boulevard, and Junction from Foothills to Washington Boulevard. The $2.5 million fiscal year 26 funding will come from state gas tax and Highland Reserve Community Facilities District funds and will fully fund the project. Construction will begin later this summer. And the final resurfacing project requesting funding this year is for Main Street from Washington to Foothills Boulevard. This year's $1.6 million request covers design and partially funds the construction of the $5 million project. An additional $3.4 million will be requested with the fiscal year 27 budget to fully fund construction. Funding for the project will come from general fund and a repayment of federal gas tax borrowed by the local transportation fund to help construct Dry Creek Greenway Phase 1. And an exciting new Public Works rehab project beginning in fiscal year 26 is the refreshing of the 28,000 feet of city-owned sound walls. Sound walls throughout the city have various owners, homeowners associations, lighting and landscape districts, homeowners themselves, businesses, and the city. This 10-year program will focus on updating the look at for those sound walls owned by the city. The program will request roughly $250,000 per year, adjusted yearly for inflation, to design and construct these improvements as sufficient fund balance in the project account allows. Some of the improvements anticipated include cleaning and applying graffiti protection treatments, adding decorative columns, adding wall caps, and painting or staining the wall as needed. The program is funded through the general fund. And the final Public Works project I want to highlight tonight is a $500,000 request for the design of Phase 2 of the Dry Creek Greenway East Trail, which will extend the Phase 1 project we're currently working on, another 1.5 miles from Rocky Ridge where Phase 1 ended to Old Auburn Road. The total project cost is estimated at $5.5 million and is funded primarily with grant funds and a smaller portion of state tax-funded transportation development funds. Construction could begin as early as 2026. So before moving on to Roseville Electric's project request, my staff and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have about Public Works projects.
I think we're good.
I'm just going to make a comment. I'm glad to see all these things, but I'm just thinking today on our Church Street, down Church Street, and all the Public Works projects you're doing from one end to the other, and some on Atkinson Street. When you're in an older area, things break after 50, 60, 70 years, and seeing that kind of real strong work, and it all costs so much money, and there's a lot of places. I just want to give you a kudos for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's EU doing that work now in preparation for our resurfacing, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, real quick, Mayor, and do this offline, but I've been asked by someone what the status of Andorra and going underneath the tracks are. We can have that conversation offline.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next, to electric.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Chris Porter, Assistant Electric Utility Director, and I'm here to present the selection of projects from the Electric Department tonight. Our capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2026 includes $41.1 million of projects. First project is our new services project. This is requesting $6.4 million of funding to support new residential and commercial construction. To note, on this particular project, this funding is all 100% reimbursed by development. Additionally, we're looking for $1.25 million in funding for some facility improvements at 2070 and 2090 Hilltop, as well as the administration building at our Roseville Energy Park. These funds will be used to redesign some of the office space and provide construction equipment to support the growth of our utility and operational requirements. Next project, we are going to be adding a second transformer to our Sierra Vista substation, which is on Westbrook Boulevard. The first phase of the project is procurement, the long lead items. So the FY26, we need $1.8 million of additional funding in order to begin procurement of the transformer. This transformer is required to support the additional growth in the area, as well as to provide additional system redundancy. Installation will occur in the following fiscal year, so you'll see another request in FY27. As you may remember, in early April, we came to you with a new project that we are pursuing as a joint venture between us and the California Department of Water Resources. They will be relocating 2 of their combustion turbines from another site to our Roseville Power Plant number 2. This site lies just outside the city boundaries on kind of east of Wood Creek, north of Blue Oaks. This project will replace our 2 existing aged combustion turbine generators with 2 new combustion turbine generators. And to note on this one, this project was created like I said, in April of this year, and that was $17 million of funding. And so this total project cost is estimated at $44.9 million. Final project we have for you tonight is our generation control system modernization. This is $1 million of funding in order to upgrade aged components in our control system. These technology systems require upgrading from time to time, and that ensures that our Roseville Energy Park operates reliably, and also it provides up-to-date cybersecurity measures for the plant. Thank you. With that, I have any questions anybody has?
Any questions, staff? Okay, we'll keep going.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Sean Bigley. I'm your Environment and Utilities Director. So I want to go through our projects that we're requesting in this budget cycle. So just to start, in the water utility, the budget request for FY26 is $25.7 million between capital improvement projects and non-capital year projects for the water utility. And in the wastewater utility, we're looking at $16.2 million between capital improvement projects and non-capital multi-year projects for the wastewater utility. All right, so first project, EU is requesting through the budget essentially a project that would rehabilitate our reclaim basins number 1 and 2 to replace those basins. Essentially, those basins have exceeded their useful life at the Barton Road water treatment plant, and the new basins will match the footprint of existing basins 3 and 4. The funding source for this $8 million project will come from the Water Rehabilitation Fund. Next project is our cooperative raw water supply reliability project. Request in FY26 is $1 million. Essentially what this project is a raw water pipeline project that connects near the Foothill water treatment plant. It's part of PCWA's infrastructure and actually connects through a series of pipelines over several miles into the Barton Road water treatment plant. This project essentially is one of the efforts we're trying to undertake to reduce risk relative to Folsom Reservoir and access existing water supplies through our Placer County Water Agency and Middle Fork project contract. So the project's a big project. Will take well over a decade, and the total project cost is estimated at $150 million. The good news is we are seeking funding on the federal side through the Section 219 program through the Army Corps of Engineers. We do have in Roseville a $21 million authorization that was approved by Congress in 2022 through the Water Resources Development Act, and we're currently seeking an appropriation to match that to get the project going. The federal share would be up to 75% of the project cost with the 25% local match. This is funded through both the Water Construction and Water Rehabilitation Fund for that local match fund. Okay, next project is a project where we are seeking in FY26 $1 million. This is to conduct a feasibility assessment that will determine how we can convey better treated water from Placer County Water Agency to from their foothill pressure zone to be conveyed to the city's northeast and Halverson tanks. Currently, what we want to do is undertake a feasibility technical memorandum and utilize what's in that memorandum to further the project. Funding source for this request is water construction and water rehabilitation. Next project is consistent with the specific plans for Douglas Harding, Douglas Sunrise, and Atlantic Street. And essentially what this is a request for $200,000 in FY26 and through a ultimate request in FY30 for $2.1 million to essentially look at planning a project in this area to be able to serve 850 high-density residential dwelling units and an increase in estimated potable water demand per day of about 150,000 gallons, and will ultimately result in about 1,800 linear feet of pipeline improvements in the area. This project would ultimately be funded by a combination of water construction and water rehabilitation funds. Next project is our continuation of our aquifer storage and recovery well expansion. This is for wells 5 and 6. So these are the next two wells after the ones that we're currently working on now are completed. And so the FY26 request is $6 million. FY28, ultimately, we plan to request $6 million, then FY29, another $6 million for this project. Essentially, what this is to begin the planning process, design process relative to these wells. We are undergoing right now sort of a site selection process to determine where those new wells should ultimately be located. Expected construction is expected to begin in FY28 and last through FY29. This is funded through a combination of water construction funds and water rehabilitation funds. Next project is a large regional project called River Arc. If you recall, Council in August of 2024 made the decision to rejoin the River Arc Partnership. Essentially what this is a regional project working with several other water agencies in the region to utilize an existing intake on the Sacramento River, have conveyance to a water treatment plant that's regionally used, and then convey that water east towards the city of Roseville as well as to the other partners that are part of the project. This is a project that's been kind of conceptualized for probably well over 30 years, has a wide-ranging support in the water forum process, and essentially what we're in right now is requesting an FY26 request for $1 million. And what this will allow us to do is to continue to engage in the permitting environmental process that's part of this initial phase. Right now, we're working on CEQA as well as examining potential water treatment plant sites and also conducting a raw water sampling plan with other phases coming down the line in the future for council consideration. Funding source for this project is from the Water Construction Fund and Water Rehabilitation Fund. Next project is a request for $2.2 million in FY26 and a planned request in FY27 for $2.2 million for replacement of our diffusers that are in the aeration basins at the Dry Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Essentially, right now we have aging diffusers that in those basins that are deteriorating, and they are less energy efficient, and so essentially replacing them will help maintain reliable operation and improve overall secondary treatment performance at Dry Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Funding source for this would be from the Wastewater Regional Rehabilitation Fund. Next project from Environment and Utilities is a FY26 request of $200,000 with an FY27 request for $1.9 million to essentially do improvements for our recycled water system with respect to some pipeline augmentations. What this would do was essentially allow us to utilize our recycled water systems evaluation and focus in on recommended upgrades that'll help us keep up with growing demand and ensure the system continues to perform reliably in the future. Funding source here is wastewater rehabilitation fund for this project. Next project is a request in FY26 for $1.2 million. Ultimately, another potential request in FY28 for $4.2 million. This is for continued improvements at our West Roseville recycled water storage site. Essentially, what we're looking is to make sure that site continues to have the appropriate conveyance and other storage infrastructure to allow us to meet the demands for future growth in Roseville. The funding source for this project would come from the Recycled Water Construction Fund. Finally, we've got a lot of other projects on the books that are planned and proposed. And this is just a quick list. I won't go through all these projects, but this slide kind of gives you a sense of just the wide range of different projects that we're engaged in. And if we can go to the next slide, there's the remaining of those projects as well. So for brevity's sake, we just wanted to list those so there's awareness in terms of the wide range of projects we have out there. But with that being said, that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions you have for EU projects.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions of the council of Sean?
Yeah, just a quick question. That last one, the recycled, is that the west side?
Correct.
Supply tanks?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
There's additional space in that area for some expansion in that area.
Yeah, thank you. That's enough.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. Jill, you're up.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. I'm Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director. And for Parks, Recreation, and Libraries in FY26, there are $9.1 million in capital projects and $500,000 in non-capital projects, for a total of $9.6 million in project funding requests. I thought I'd start with the Placer Valley Soccer Complex, as there's so much excitement for this new facility. The project broke ground in June of 2023. We've been very pleased with the progress, and we are on track to complete it at the end of this year. In FY26, the Placer Valley Soccer Complex project will be augmented by $100,000, as you see on this slide. This $100,000 was originally allocated for the design of Park Site W50E. Parcel W50E is where the universally accessible playground is now located. So this will close the W50E project and add that $100,000 to the Placer Valley Soccer Complex project. The Sogstad Park Phase 1 renovations CIP was previously approved with $1.8 million allocated. This additional $200,000 from the Infill Neighborhood Park Fund increases the overall amount to $2 million. Phase 1 includes fenced large and small dog parks, which are circled at the bottom of this graphic, and a skate track, shown at the circle in the north end of the park. The Roseville Aquatics Complex renovations project, in the amount of $300,000, will fund the design for updating the locker rooms and showers, as well as the design for replacement of the competition pool shell and gunite, which is at its end of life. Funding for this project comes from the general fund to the Parks, Recreation, and Library Capital Projects Fund. To address challenges with the spray ground at Vernon Street Town Square, funds were allocated in FY25 for an updated design. This $950,000 request seeks funding for construction based on recommendations of the design. This funding will come from the general fund to the Parks, Recreation, and Library Capital Projects Fund. The construction of an elementary school in Creekview is underway, and therefore planning for a new adventure club is happening concurrently. This project requests $750,000 to add a new adventure club modular building utilizing the Youth Development Fund. Per the city's youth development funding policy, funds will be transferred from the general fund into the Youth Development Fund to support this project. The Diamond Oaks Golf Course renovation project will allocate $250,000 to improve the aging infrastructure on the golf course, including renovation of select tees and bunkers, bridge repair, and drainage improvements. This project is funded through a general fund transfer to the Diamond Oaks Golf Course Fund. The Maidu Regional Park Pickleball Courts project is a $600,000 request to convert the non-functioning batting cages at Maidu to pickleball courts. This project is funded through the general citywide park fund. Exhibits at the Maidu Museum have not been updated since the current building opened in 2010. This $300,000 request is for the design of new museum exhibits. Additional funding will be requested in future years for implementation of the design. This project is funded by the General Fund through the Parks, Recreation, and Library Capital Projects Fund. This $400,000 project begins Phase 2 at Pistachio Regional Park and includes the design of a spray ground and a skate track utilizing funds from the Public Facilities Fund. And to continue taking care of our aging assets, several smaller rehab projects are planned in FY26, including play structure replacements at Summerhill and Becerra Parks, and basketball court replacement projects at Eastwood and Veterans Memorial Parks, both of which are funded by the General Fund through the Parks, Recreation, and Library Capital Projects Fund. And replacing the horseshoe pits at Crab Park with concrete cornhole courts will be funded by bond savings from the Roseville Finance Authority. So that concludes this evening's presentation for FY26 capital improvements. I'll stand for any questions, as will the gentleman with me at the table.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Does council have any questions of Jill or any other staff members before we open up to public comment? Okay, public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to comment on these items or this item? Now would be your time to come forward.
I just had a question on that list of things there was too many to go through. One was called the Folsom Reliability. I'm just curious what that means.
Yeah. So what that is essentially a study that we worked on with the City of Folsom, San Juan Water District, and essentially what that study looked at, and this is in cooperation with the Bureau of Reclamation, is it looked at alternative ways to access water from the Folsom Reservoir itself, or projects that could potentially access water downstream on the Lower American River side. So it's essentially a study at this point in time. They've gone through and done their initial sort of assessment and recommendations relative to potential projects down the road. As you can imagine, those projects are expensive to undertake. But from an environmental utility standpoint, what we like to do is make sure that we evaluate a lot of different options, different ways to make sure that we add to water supply reliability. And so that study is one aspect of that water supply reliability effort that our EU has been working on for a number of years, and we work very diligently and somewhat quietly behind the scenes to make sure that water supply reliability is kind of front and center for what we do for our mission. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, we'll close public comment.
Mayor, this is an informational item, and, one of our 6 strategic plan goals is being fiscally responsible in a changing world. I mean, as we move toward the budget process, can we have a better understanding of if we don't do it now, it'll cost more later, or we could put it off to the side? It's sort of that cost-benefit analysis, because I think, if it's not this year, it'll be future years. Delay always ends up with things costing more, but it sure would be helpful to understand. So, and embedded in that, a better understanding of what is grant funded, because we're pretty good about going and getting grant funding versus, ratepayer dollars. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, as Bruce mentioned, it's information item only, and so we will not be taking action on this item. We appreciate each of you touching on projects within your department, too. item is 49, fiscal year 2024-25 second quarter financial report from our financial team, finance team.
Mayor, City Council members, I'm Scott Pettengill, Finance Director, and I'm here this evening to provide a second quarter financial update. So tonight, my presentation will cover the period from July through December of 2024, as outlined in the second quarter report that's included in your packet, and also share our updated year-end forecast for our general fund. This presentation will begin with an update on the general fund, followed by an overview of our major enterprise funds, and then I'll conclude with an update on several other notable funds. So I'll begin with general fund revenues. This next chart shows a revenue collected as a percentage of the budget. As of the second quarter, general fund revenues are at 24% of the $211 million budget. That's roughly $50 million collected. And this is mainly due to the timing of sales and property tax receipts, consistent with prior years. Last year also showed 24% as of the second quarter. Sales tax figures reflect taxable sales through October, and collections from November to June should be shown in future reports. Property tax is just at 2%, as most payments are received in the last 2 quarters of the fiscal year. TOT, or transient occupancy tax, is at 42%, $3 million of the $7.2 million budget, and in line with expectations due to hotel stays through November. Parks, Recreation, and Library revenues are on track at 50% of target. Building, plan check, and engineering revenues have exceeded expectations, driven by strong development activity. And other revenues, including property transfer tax, are at 50% of budget. Overall, revenue collection is on track. Though sales tax may fall a bit short of our year-end estimates, which I'm going to cover a bit more on the next couple slides. So focusing in on sales tax, our latest consultant report shows improvement compared to the first quarter, which had that projected $6 million deficit. The updated forecast now estimates a much smaller shortfall, approximately $100,000, combining both Bradley Burns and Measure B revenues. We'll continue to monitor this revenue stream closely, though, as we approach the year end here. And as we saw last year, the primary drivers of these potential shortfalls include high interest rates, inflation, as well as shifts in consumer spending from taxable goods to services and travel, which aren't taxable, as well as broader economic uncertainty that may be impacting overall consumer behavior. So diving into the sales tax forecast a bit more, at the top of the slide, highlighted in brown, you'll see the latest year-end forecast from our sales tax consultant for both Bradley Burns and Measure B. Our consultant estimates that total sales tax revenues will range between $98.2 million and $100.8 million, with the most likely scenario coming in at approximately $99.5 million. Now, turning to that bottom portion of that slide, based on the most likely forecast, we're projecting a shortfall of about $100,000, as indicated by that red arrow. And in a more optimistic scenario, we could see a surplus of about $1.2 million. And on the other hand, we could see a more conservative, under a more conservative scenario, the shortfall could be as much as $1.4 million. I did want to take a moment here to note that Bradley Burns and Measure B do have different sales tax bases, which means that these revenues don't always move in the same at the same rate or proportion. So we're not alone in seeing these trends. Other agencies are experiencing similar patterns, and economists continue to highlight a broader slowdown in sales tax growth. This graph provided by our sales tax consultant shows the annualized percent change in sales tax revenue from Q1 of 2022 through Q4 of 2024. And as you can see, Roseville, represented by that blue line, along with Placer County and the state, are all following similar trends. And while sales tax revenue began to trend upward in the fourth quarter, over to the right in that graph, nearing our historic average of about 3% after several quarters of decline, we do remain well below that exceptional growth rate we saw back in 2022 when the increases exceeded 20%. This next graph shows sales tax trends for Roseville's 4 major sales tax generators: Roseville Auto Mall, Creekside, Town Center, Fountains, and Roseville Galleria through the fourth quarter of 2024. It highlights typical seasonal trends. The Galleria, which is represented by the purple line, sees a spike in the fourth quarter from holiday shopping. And the Auto Mall, represented by that blue line, usually sees a boost in the second quarter due to better weather and higher consumer activity. And you'll notice that sales tax from the Auto Mall has risen to over $3 million, though it's still below 2022 levels. Creekside, represented by the red line, and the Fountains, represented by the green line, have all shown steady sales from 2022 through 2024. On this next graph, we show Roseville's inflation-adjusted Q4 per capita sales tax revenue over the past 5 years, broken down by categories like general retail, transportation, food products, and online sales, or the county pool. Sales tax peaked in 2021 at $447 per person, following a strong post-pandemic rebound, and it has since declined each year, reaching $398 in 2024. However, it's still higher than the pre-pandemic levels of $377 in 2020, indicating ongoing local economic growth. Transportation, general retail, and the county pool are our main revenue sources, with stability in food products and business-to-business balancing those fluctuations. And while growth has slowed since 2021, our sales tax does remain well diversified, as you can see from this graph. So moving on to property tax, which is the general fund's second largest revenue source. Based on the latest information from the county, we expect property tax revenues to exceed our estimates by $1.3 million, reaching $76.4 million, compared to our estimate of $75.1 million. And this positive outcome is due to the continued pace of development and rising property values in the area. And as I mentioned earlier, you'll notice there in the middle that the revenue is very low in this graph, and that's because we receive property tax revenues in the third and fourth quarter of the year. So moving on to expenditures. Overall, general fund expenditures are tracking below budget estimates at 44%, and that lower spending rate of 44% compared to 50% of the year elapsed is primarily due to cost savings from vacancies, as well as material service supply savings across our general fund departments, and this is consistent with the spending patterns we've seen in prior years. So now, turning to the general fund year-end forecast. We've prepared this high-level chart to provide a high-level overview of our current year forecast. And as mentioned earlier, the sales tax revenue estimate has improved, but there's still potential for it to come in below our projections. And so we presented a range here from $1.4 million of a shortfall to about a $1.2 million surplus, reflecting both our consultants' pessimistic and optimistic outlooks. However, we're going to continue to closely monitor this revenue, the revenue stream moving forward through the rest of the year. On the positive note, as I mentioned previously, property tax revenue is projected to exceed expectations, with the county anticipating an additional $1.3 million. And this will help partially offset any sales tax shortfall. Additionally, we're expecting $6 million in potential department expenditure savings and surpluses from other revenues, and we factor all of this in. We're projecting that we'll finish the year anywhere from about a $100,000 shortfall to potentially even a surplus. And while the outlook for sales tax is stronger than a few months ago, we're still remaining cautious, given the ongoing economic uncertainty. As a result, we've been continuing to hold off on those, making those $6.4 million in additional discretionary payments to CalPERS. And if positive trends continue, we will continue through the remainder of the year. We will consider making some or all of those ADP payments. So now I'll move on to enterprise fund revenues, starting with electric. Their revenues are slightly above estimates this second quarter and are expected to exceed budget by year end. This is largely due to a $7.3 million increase in utility sales from higher usage during the warmer than normal weather, along with $1.6 million in additional wholesale revenue. And these gains will be partially offset by reduced revenue from CDWR following the city taking ownership of the generators at the Roseville Energy Park. The water utility revenues are 3% above estimates, and that's driven by increased irrigation and ongoing development. And we're expecting to finish the year slightly above estimates in the water utility. Wastewater revenues are currently below budget due to the timing of partner reimbursements in that fund, but should align by the end of the year. Waste services revenues are at 48% of budget and projected to slightly exceed our expectations, supported by higher scrap sales and customer growth. And then transit and transportation funds, they recognize most of the revenue later in the fiscal year, so we expect the final figures to line with expenditures. And then lastly, youth development revenues are at 37% of budget and are expected to fall short of our estimates. Preschool and grant-funded enrollment remains steady, but the adventure participation is lower due to new competition. And we're developing a plan to close that gap using PRL surplus funds as well as general fund support, with more details to come during the upcoming fiscal year 26 budget workshop next week. So now we'll move on to enterprise fund expenditures. Electric spending was under budget at mid-year, but now we're expecting to exceed projections by year-end. This is mainly due to higher power supply costs from new renewable contracts and increased summer usage. These costs are partially offset by lower plant expenses. A one-time $12.6 million plant repair is expected to be mostly reimbursed by insurance, but a budget adjustment is underway to address any of that remaining overage. Our water utility is at 39% through the second quarter, driven by vacancies, lower water purchase costs, and reduced spending on supplies and services, and is expected to remain under budget through the end of the year. Wastewater is tracking at 44%, with savings from lower maintenance costs, vacant positions, as well as energy efficiencies they implemented, and year-end spending is projected to be under budget. Waste services is also at 44%, with savings from staffing vacancies, lower fuel costs from renewable natural gas, and delayed equipment purchases, and it too is expected to finish under budget. Transit and transportation funds are under budget due to timing delays of planned expenditures, which will occur later this year. And then youth development is at 37%, with staff continuing to manage costs to help offset the lower revenue from Adventure Club enrollment, as I previously mentioned. So lastly, on this last slide, it shows second quarter revenue results for the fire facilities, public facilities, and strategic improvement funds. Public facilities revenues are tracking ahead of estimates at 60% of budget through December. Fire facilities and strategic improvement fund revenues are under budget estimates at 39% and 22% respectively, and both are expected to finish slightly below targets by the end of the year. And I did want to note here that the Strategic Improvement Fund budget did include that one-time $1.7 million transfer from last year's general fund surplus to support projects for economic benefit for the city. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Scott. Does the council have any questions for Scott on the presentation before we go to public comment? We'll open to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to this item? Close public comment, bring it back to the council. For any other deliberations? You know it's information, so we won't be taking any action tonight. We appreciate your thorough report and keeping us updated.
Items, so I'll stay put.
Okay. The next item before us is a public hearing. So I will open the public hearing. The item is the fiscal year 25-26 landscaping and lighting district assessments, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report, ordering the levy and collection of assessments. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Scott Pettengill, Finance Director for the city. And tonight we're holding this public hearing and recommending approval of the fiscal year 26 landscaping and lighting district assessments. Landscaping and lighting districts, referred to as LLDs, are established under state law to fund the ongoing maintenance, operation, and servicing of landscaping and lighting improvements within the public right-of-ways and dedicated easements in each district. These funds are collected through assessments levied on property tax bills. On April 16th, the City Council approved resolutions to initiate proceedings for the annual levy of assessments for the city's 8 landscaping and lighting districts, along with related actions. And tonight is the notice public hearing before council considers approving resolutions to levy the assessments for next fiscal year. The public hearing is the final action required by state law that allows the public to comment on the proposed assessments. And the assessments are based on the engineer's reports prepared for each district. So Combined, the city's landscaping and lighting districts are expected to generate just over $1.72 million in revenue next fiscal year to fund important maintenance and operations of landscaping and lighting improvements within the public right-of-ways and dedicated easements. And to conclude, this item before you this evening includes a recommendation to open the public hearing. And following that, we ask for your approval of resolutions for each of the city's 8 landscaping and lighting districts for fiscal year 26. And this includes the approval of the engineer's annual levy reports and ordering of the levy and collection of assessments. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Does council have any questions before public comment? No. Okay, public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. It's a public hearing. And if the council doesn't have any other questions, we'll have the clerk read the motion.
Thank you. On item 50, the City Council will consider the recommendations to adopt Resolution 25-157, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Historic District Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, and adopting Resolution 25-158, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Historic District Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26. And also adopting Resolution 25-159, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Infill Area Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-160, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Infill Area Landscape and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, and adopting Resolution 25-161, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Johnson Ranch Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, and adopting Resolution 25-162, ordering the levy and collections of assessment within the Johnson Ranch Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-163, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for North Central Roseville Specific Plan Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-164, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the North Central Roseville Specific Plan Lighting and Landscaping and Lighting Districts for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-165, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Northwest Roseville Specific Plan Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-166, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Northwest Roseville Specific Plan Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-167, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for Olympus Point Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-168, ordering the levy and collections of assessments within the Olympus Point Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-169, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Riverside Avenue Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-170, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Riverside Avenue Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, adopting Resolution 25-171, amending and or approving the engineer's annual levy report for the Vernon Street Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26, and lastly, adopting Resolution 25-172, ordering the levy and collections of assessment within the Vernon Street Landscaping and Lighting District for fiscal year 25-26. With that, may I please have a motion to approve?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
That was a personal best.
Yeah, that was a record.
Thank you. Your service.
Something at auction during that process.
Okay, we have 2 more public hearings to get through this evening. The next is item 51, Water, Wastewater, and Waste Services Proposed Utility Rate Adjustments and Municipal Code Revisions for the fiscal year 25-26 and fiscal year 26-27. I'll open up the public hearing and turn it over to the staff for a presentation.
Great. Good evening again. Sean Bigley, I'm your Environmental Utilities Director, and tonight we are going to provide a presentation, and this is the first public hearing for our proposed rate adjustments for FY 26-27, and as you recall, this is part of council policy. We basically look at our doing a rate case essentially every 2 years. What we do is we do an actual outlook for 10 years, looking at both expenses and revenue. But ultimately, what we come back to, if needed, is coming back to council for a two-year rate adjustment according to the results. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the rest of the presentation to Shane Whittington. I'll also conclude at the end just to give council an overview of the Proposition 218 protest letters that we did receive, and I'll provide a summary as a result. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shane.
Thank you, Sean. In the interest of keeping what's already a pretty long meeting a little bit shorter, I'm going to jump right into it. So what we have on the slide here is a cool infographic that basically explains the complexity of rate setting. But I think for the purposes of tonight, what I'm going to want to boil it down to is rate setting is really an exercise in balancing service affordability with service reliability. And to touch on service affordability specifically, I wanted to highlight two things. So first, on the top right-hand side in that box there, you'll see that we've acquired something like $37 million in grants over the last 5 years. And then also on the box below that, $2 million in budget reductions this year. That's not to say our cost of operations have gone down, but we went through the exercise of identifying where we could trim costs without sacrificing service quality. And what that's really resulted in, those two items, is it's allowed us to keep rate increases at 3 or 4% instead of 5, 6, or 7%. And then I thought, rather than going through the 140 rates and subscriptions that we have, what I would do is talk through what a typical residential bill looks like. And what we're looking at for the rate increase in fiscal year 26 is an increase of about $4.70. And that's about a 3% rate increase. And you'll see about a 3 or a 4% rate increase across all subscriptions. On the next 3 slides or so, I have different looks at the reasonability of the request. And these are by no means the end-all be-all, but they are good for framing the request itself. So this first one that we have here is our rate increase relative to consumer price index. So the overall consumer price index as of December 2024 was 2.9%. And then that black dotted line at the top there is 5.2%, and that represents the consumer price index specifically for utilities, which is something that the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks individually. Another measure of reasonability is how we look compared to our regional comparators. And the long and the short of it is we're still very competitive. So dark blue bar is what we're currently looking at for the average residential bill. That kind of blue-gray in the middle there is what we're proposing for fiscal year 26. And then the other blue on the right-hand side is what our regional comparators look like for rates for those specific utilities. And then bear with me as I fumble through this one, because this one's a little bit more confusing. But basically, the dark blue bar here represents, for on the water on the left-hand side and wastewater on the right-hand side, the percent of median income that's spent on that specific utility. And then the light blue bar at the bottom there represents where the 25th percentile of nationwide comparators are. So what this is showing is AWWA actually benchmarks the cost of these utilities across the nation. And another way of saying this more simply, and maybe in the future I'll just do this, basically we're cheaper than 75% of our nationwide comparators by this metric. And then in these last few slides, I'm going to attempt to connect the rates to the services that residents and customers actually receive, just to ground it a little bit. And for the water utility specifically, what the operation sees is something like 10 billion gallons of water treated on an annual basis. They maintain something like 715 miles of water main. And what that means for the typical resident is something like half a cent per gallon. And an imperfect analogy, but if you were to go to the local grocer, that's something like $1.29 for retailed bottled water. Likewise, for wastewater, we treat something like 7.3 billion gallons of wastewater annually. We maintain something like 900 miles of underground infrastructure. And again, an imperfect analogy, but for the typical resident, it's something like 3 cents per flush versus our market research, which shows that if you were to rent a porta potty, it would be something like $2 per use. And then for our waste services utility, we collect something like 268 million pounds of trash annually. We do something like 4.2 million curbside pickups for all customers, and that comes out to about $8.50 per pickup. And again, just for frame of reference, if you were to self-haul to the landfill, that would be about $44 per trip. And this is just the outreach that we did leading up to this point. So mailed the Prop 218 notification on March 31st, and then went to various neighborhood associations and other stakeholders through April and May. Took it to PUC and got their recommendation. And at this point, what we're looking for is public hearing tonight, first reading of the ordinance tonight, and then second reading and rate adoption in the first meeting in June, and then rate implementation July 4th of fiscal year 26, and then July 1 of 2026. And with that, before we hand it back to City Clerk and Council, I think Sean wanted to say some closing words.
Yeah, just really quickly. So just wanted to report out in terms of the Proposition 218 protest. So if you recall, under Proposition 218, the parcel owners within the city of Roseville actually receive a notice. In that notice, they are given the opportunity to provide protest letters if they do not agree with the proposed rates that are in front of you. So we have about 55,000 accounts in total in terms of notification. As of today, we received 9 responses. And I'll very briefly just sort of summarize some of the themes so you can kind of get a sense of what those letters provide. We did receive one letter from a business that was concerned about utility rate increases as a new business. There was some concern about control of water usage on the property itself and just interaction with the property management company. What I did do is I asked staff to go ahead and contact the business as well as work with the property owner to see if there is any services or potentially rebates that we can offer to the business within our offerings to hopefully reduce the cost of water for that particular business. So staff did make that contact today, and so we'll continue to try to work with that business customer and see what we can do. Just other ones in general, there was some commentary regarding the notion that customers feel like that the city should go after the customers that waste water or use a lot of water on the potable side, and that those that conserve should not have to endure any increase in their rates. There's also concerns relative to customers that are on fixed incomes. Also, a comment made that the customer already pays Melrose taxes. With respect to this, we're not tax funded as far as the service. And so Melrose is a completely different sort of revenue stream that doesn't have any thing to do with the utility services that we provide within EU. And then finally, just a comment regarding new home construction, and that new home construction should absorb the cost increases to provide ongoing utility services. And just as we know, the infrastructure and the other aspects of developing a system comes from water connection fees. In terms of ongoing services, those are supported from utility rates that allow for the services to continue. So there's a distinction between that as well. So those are the general themes that we received in those protest letters. So with that, I think we'll end there. I don't know if we need to walk through these recommendations or not. I'm looking at our city attorney, but on the screen here are the recommendations relative to the action tonight. So with that being said, I think we'll conclude there and maybe answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Let's see, public comment?
Open public comment. Yep.
Does the council have any comments or feedback before we open up to public comment? Okay, public comment. Okay. Does anyone here tonight want to make a comment on this item? Now would be your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. I'll close the public hearing. And
Mayor, I'm going to say we try, and there are things outside of our control that add costs to all of our utilities, and I know we're prudent and diligent and try to manage those costs. So We don't look at this lightly, and Shane, I think you always do an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bruce. That's true. Okay, with that, I have a motion.
Thank you. On item 51, the City Council will consider the recommendation to conduct a public hearing and receive public comment and respond to questions regarding the proposed adjustments to water, wastewater, and water services utility rates. And be introduced for first reading an ordinance amending Roseville's Municipal Code sections pertaining to water, sections 14.08.090, 14.08.100, wastewater 14.16.200, and 14.17.080, and waste services sections 9.12.030, 9.12.070, 9.12.090, and 9.12.130 to implement the rate adjustments and add modifications for clarity and consistency. May I please have a motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start a roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for all the outreach as well. Okay, we have one last item before us this evening. It's another public hearing.
We're going to get
Yes. Item 52, Community Development Block Grant 2025 through 29, Consolidated Plan 2025, Annual Action Plan, Analysis of Impediments and Citizen Participation Plan. And I'll turn over to staff for the presentation. Good evening.
Open public hearing.
And I'll open the public hearing. Thank you.
Good evening again, Tricia Isom, Housing Manager. And tonight I have with me Christine Fales, and she's going to be going over all of the wonderful things you just mentioned regarding the CDBG grant.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the City Council. I'm Christine Fales, Housing Analyst in the Economic Development Department. Tonight I'm presenting the 2025 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan, which are routine in nature. The Consolidated Plan, or CON Plan, covers a 5-year period beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030. The plan was prepared in accordance with requirements set forth by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Developing the CON Plan requires research of the housing and community needs of our low-income residents, which includes a review of the current census data, American Community Survey data, as well as consultation with service providers. The process also requires community input in order to develop priorities for funding expenditures for programs or projects using CDBG funds within the next 5 years. Outreach efforts began with a community needs survey in fall of 2024 with 429 responses from residents and service providers. 2 community needs workshops were held in November 2024 to solicit public comment. Throughout the planning process, 2 high-priority needs were heard repeatedly from the community and local service providers, including affordable housing and more services for persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness. In addition, concerns were heard regarding other community needs which are noted as lower priority in the plan. These include services for seniors and persons with disabilities, fair housing services, maintenance of existing homeownership housing stock through housing rehabilitation, services for survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, or stalking, and food and nutrition services for low and moderate income persons. The City of Roseville is a community development block grant entitlement jurisdiction and receives an annual allocation of CDBG funds from HUD to promote affordable housing and community development programs for low-income residents. On May 14th, HUD announced that the City of Roseville was allocated $701,373 for the 2025 CDBG award. Along with the estimated award, the city has roughly $392,000 in prior year carryover funds available to commit. Additionally, it is anticipated that the city will receive at least $50,000 of CDBG program income during program year 2025. The CDBG award is broken down into different funding categories. A maximum of 20% can be allocated for planning and administration, which pays for annual program management and administration of individual CDBG grants. A maximum of 15% of program funds can be allocated for public services, which can go towards programs such as mental health services, food, and services for the unsheltered. The remainder of the funds must go toward community development projects, which could include improvements to infrastructure, activities related to housing, and neighborhood improvements. This next slide illustrates the agencies and 5 programs which are being recommended for funding for the 2025 program year. Requests for funding under the Public Services category totaled approximately $327,500. In order to determine which applications were funded for 2025, staff convened a review panel that consisted of CDBG staff from City of Roseville and City of Rockland, as well as program consultants. In accordance with the rating and ranking scoring scale and based on competitive and limited public service funding of just 15% of the CDBG grant allocation, the top 5 ranked applications out of 14 are recommended to receive funding. As mentioned previously, addressing the need for more affordable housing continues to be a high priority need in the city's 5-year CDBG plan. As a recipient of CDBG funds, the city is obligated to ensure that fair housing services are available for low and moderate income households. Therefore, an estimated $16,000 is recommended to continue funding Project Sentinel, fair housing services provider. These funds are categorized as a public service and fall under the 15% cap mentioned in the previous slide. $700,000 is proposed to be allocated towards the support of affordable rental and transitional housing development. Once the proposed action plan is approved by HUD, the city will release a notification of funding availability to use these funds for acquisition of a site designated for affordable housing to benefit low-income households. Remaining funds totaling $198,983 are proposed to be allocated to the city's owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program, which assists low-income residents with energy efficiency and health and safety-related repairs, and increases both the quality of life for the homeowners and the quality of housing stock in Roseville. The program currently has approximately $500,000 in State of California home program income funds available. However, specific items such as emergency repairs and grants are not eligible with home funds but are allowable with CDBG funds. In 2020, the city participated in the development of the Sacramento Valley Analysis of Impediments, commonly referred to as the AI, which is an identification of barriers that affect the rights of fair housing choice and serves as a basis for fair housing planning. The city's 2025 through 2029 consolidated planning process includes a summary of revised data findings related to the City of Roseville and efforts to date to address fair housing concerns following the initial adoption of the 2020 AI. As noted in the annual action plan, the city will continue to provide CDBG funds for affordable housing and fair housing counseling and education as recommended in the study. Lastly, the city is required to have a detailed citizen participation plan, which contains the city's policies and procedures for public involvement in the consolidated plan process in the use of CDBG funds. A few minor updates were made to the citizen participation plan to clarify public noticing and comment procedures as well as emergency response procedures. The draft consolidated plan documents, including the annual action plan, update to the AI, as well as the citizen participation plan, were made available for public review and comment from April 5th through May 6th, 2025. Lastly, staff recommends that the City Council receive public comment on the City of Roseville 2025 Consolidated Plan, Annual Action Plan, proposed updates to the Analysis of Impediments and Citizen Participation Plan, and adopt a resolution approving the documents for submission to HUD. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Does the council have any questions before we go to public comment? Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on this item? We'll close public comment. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for our deliberations. I have a conflict, so I think I need to leave for.
Yes. So there is a conflict for item 52 with Mayor Bernasconi pertaining to Stand-Up Placer, as Stand-Up Placer has been her client. So we're going to have her exit the room in the dais, and she will not participate on the discussion or voting on that particular item. Do you want to have that closed, or just in general, she just can't participate?
So go ahead and take the motion on that grant. It's a grant, right? Okay. Can we go back to the amounts? I don't have the amounts.
The amount is $18,050.
18,750.
$18,750? I don't see that.
It's on the screen.
Bottom.
Yes, it is. I'm
Stand-Up
sorry.
Placer.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. So the city council will consider approving the grants. So the city council will consider approving the grant the grant amount of $18,750 for the stand-up placer on the application that will be submitted to HUD. Is that okay, in terms of the motion? Okay.
I'll move that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I have a motion on the floor with a second. Can I get Vice Mayor Albert?
Yes.
Thank you. Council Member Haldeshelt?
He's still here, and yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi is is not participating in the vote for this item, for this section. Thank you. With the entire council present, on item 52, the city council will consider the recommendation to conduct a public hearing and receive public comment on the City of Roseville's 2025 through 29 Consolidated Plan, the 2025 Annual Action Plan, and the proposed updates to the Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choices, or AI, and Citizen Participation Plan, CCP. In addition, the City Council will adopt Resolution Number 25142, approving the 2025-29 Consolidated Plan, approving the 2025 Annual Action Plan, approving the proposed amendments to the Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice and Citizen Participation Plan, and authorizing the city manager to execute necessary documents and certifications on behalf of the City of Roseville for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD. May I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor with the second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Okay, that brings us to the end of our items. We have one last public comment, which would be time for anyone to discuss any item that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to make a public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Do our city manager or our city attorney have any reports?
Yes, I have one more report, Mayor. Just kidding, I don't. Nothing further for me.
Public hearing, right?
You got me. Pauline, did you want to make any comments?
Probably briefly. I think most of us went to several different things altogether, so half of those things I'm not even going to say. I'll let the mayor say that. Since the last council meeting, I probably went to all my regular meetings, so that's Regional Water Authority, Placer County Flood Control. Today, I was part of Northern California Power Association. They're actually going to have a meeting tomorrow here in Roseville, and a lot of the members are touring Roseville, and so they went and saw our Roseville Utility Exploration Center, so that was new for them, but they'll have the meeting tomorrow. Other than that, I had a coffee at Carnegie Museum. That was fine. Went to Cap. Many of you all did and went even earlier, and was on the water resource team. And other than that, it's been busy but good. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, agreed. Tracy, anything tonight?
Just a few things. The Highway 65 JPA board met on Monday. That's one of my council assignments. And we approved the annual budget, but there was nothing else related to Roseville to report out on. And as Pauline said, I also attended Cap to Cap on the public safety team, and we moved forward a lot of items and initiatives for our region and our city. So very happy about that. And then I'll save that one because I know that the mayor will probably bring that one up.
Oh, go for it.
All of us attended the Denio Family Park dedication on last Saturday. The days are blending together. Really, really great park, and it's actually a Frisbee golf park with already a nationwide presence history built into it, which was really interesting to learn about that, and some really great open space. And I know Jill Geller's still here, and it's getting late, so I'll end on this note. I just wanted to give her and her staff a shout out. So many of us on the council, we go to these park dedications, and they're oftentimes on the weekends after hours outside of our staff members, regular Monday through Friday. And the Nio Park was just another example of just how much our community comes out and really enjoys these types of park dedications, and it showcases what we do as a city and how important our parks and our trailways are and what it contributes to the community that we're trying to establish. So I just wanted to, give you and your staff a shout out that your hard work and commitment to each one of these dedications is not lost on me, or I don't think any of the other council or community members. So thank you for all the hard work you do.
Thank
And
you.
I'll defer to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Alvord?
Yeah, I agree. We've been seeing a lot of each other at a lot of events, and I don't know, did you say it was our 89th park? I didn't hear if you mentioned that, Tracy.
I didn't.
But that's pretty tremendous to be going to park dedications and have 89 parks in the city, and more to come. And we have some more on the calendar. Cap to Cap, also many of us were there. I had the opportunity to be a part of the community resources focus group with our government relations manager, Rob Becerra, and advocated for Roseville and for the region around some of the vital safety net resources, particularly around housing insufficiency, housing vouchers, things that could potentially negatively impact our ability to provide affordable housing here in the city if the federal budget doesn't include some of these things. So we really advocated. We met with Kevin Kiley's office and several others to really just try to put focus on the importance of our workforce, our families, and just some of these safety services that are so important to our cities. Was it yesterday? No, Sunday. Councilmember Howdeshell and I were able to represent the city at the Gold Trail chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. I would encourage you all to go out to Veterans Memorial Park, and we dedicated a Patriot marker honoring our revolutionary patriots in the 250th anniversary of our nation. And we had the opportunity to it was probably, I don't know, there were a lot of good events, but I have to say it was a pretty great program. And we had a Granite Bay High School history teacher that I wish I would have had in high school. I would have liked history a whole lot more. But really just a reminder of how important, especially as an elected official, that we sign up to uphold our Constitution, the rule of law, to support our communities. And it was really just kind of a patriotic opportunity, I think, to remember how privileged we are to be Americans. So that is what I did go to another event on Sunday. Our Hindu Education Foundation, a local group, they do annual recognition of our teachers and appreciation for the work that they do in shaping our young people's futures. And so it was nice to be there. There were a couple other elected officials in the area, and several of our Roseville teachers were recognized.
Yeah, before I joined you all at the Denio's Park opening, I stopped by the Stone Ridge Neighborhood Association, where last year Councilmember Mendoza and I unceremoniously came in 5th out of 4 teams. But yeah,
Doing good to that second round.
they had a lot of serious cornhole players there at the Stone Ridge Neighborhood Association, and Councilwoman Ricucci is always humble. She was on the water team. That was a big team you were on. But, when we were on Cap to Cap, I was on the transportation team. What happened was we broke the drought because the area had been in a drought until we arrived, and it rained pretty significantly while we were back there. And as Vice Mayor Alvord said, yeah, the day at Veterans Park on Sunday was pretty inspirational. They had the folks who recreate the Continental Militia or Army. I've got the name wrong. And I asked one of the reactors, I said, "Tell me about your coat." He goes, "Well, what happened was the Americans tried to dye the coat blue, and it was a red coat, and it turned out brown." So that's fun little things. And the AP high school teacher was really inspirational. The Western Placer, see, they're going through a name. They're going to search for a name. The Western Placer Waste Management Authority is getting ready to turn the switch on July 1st. I had that. Some really good progress going on over there. And then I got a call late on Sunday from the folks at Music in the Park. That's not the right name. It's Performing Arts of Roseville, that group, and they needed somebody to kick off the 33rd season. You know, when I went there and saw Chet Gilmartin and Dale Lang and others who were there, they said, you know, this was one of those things Aldo was instrumental in being involved in. And, you know, as we come up, you know, as we went through our agenda tonight, there's a lot that have the city of Roseville's community pride, community spirit, and charitable stuff all over it. And I thought Evie, Mayor, I heard what you said. Evie really did her dad proud tonight because she just said it humbly and succinctly. And so as we remember him later on, I just wanted to add those comments.
All right, thank you. And just a few comments to close us out. It has been a while since we've met because of our Cap to Cap trip, and in that time, I've also had a community coffee. Many of us were at the dinner on the bridge. Congratulations to our Parks and Recreation Libraries team for putting that on. We've had the Mayor's Cup. We have been visited by a PRL accreditation team for being in the running for a gold medal, which we understand we'll know in October. Is that right? September? Okay. And I helped create or was part of a video, so hopefully I can plead with them also to choose Roseville. Last Friday, many of us were at the Celebrity Waiter Lunch benefiting the Lighthouse. I want to congratulate Ryan Harrigan, our fire chief. He and I had a table, and he put all the other chiefs to shame. He won a push-up contest for extra dollars. Our table did not come in first. We came in second, but thanks to the Firefighters Association, we raised, I think, close to $3,000. And so we had a very good showing, and you all should be very proud. We had many of our other council members there donating their time too. Then Friday evening after the Denios park opening, which was spectacular, I made some welcoming comments at the Iron Rose first home game debut, and that was awesome. The crowd showed up. There was thousands of people there, all really into soccer and supporting youth sports, in particular for young women. I was also at the different night, but at Stone Ridge Neighborhood Association on Monday. They wanted just to have me come, provide a few comments. Our Park Recreation Libraries team were there. I think someone from our utilities team were there as well. Like many of our neighborhood associations, they have concerns around 4th of July coming up and fireworks and reporting. Something that was also on their minds were the bikes, electric bikes and scooters that we hear a lot about in our community and how problematic they can be. Just a couple other things quickly. A congratulations to the Sober Grad Night recipients. We are in graduation season. I feel like Michelle and I are feeling this personally this year with kids that are graduating. And a special thank you also in our audience this evening. She's here for the leadership class, but the chief communications person for Roseville City School District is here. We had the foundation had their golf tournament on Monday. I was there for that and provided welcoming comments. But I think one thing that epitomizes Roseville, I know that she had a hand in that, is not sure if you're all aware, but at the elementary schools, they coordinate when the high school kids come back and they walk through the school and all the little kids kind of fist bump them. And so that's happening this week. And then this morning for the middle school, that happened too. So I think it's rewarding on both ends for the young kids and the old kids. So I think that's what makes Roseville community amazing, and just want to thank you for your hand in that. I think one of the last two other comments, one of the most important things that we do as a council is adopt a budget. Our budget is always balanced, and as you hear, we have surplus at times, and we have our budget workshop next week, and that will be the one of the last next Wednesday, and then we will hear and adopt a budget in June. The last thing I'll say is that our city attorney has a birthday coming up this week. And so this is
55, baby, 55.
all right. Well, you wear it well, and happy birthday to you. And then, as Councilmember Bruce Haddishout mentioned, tonight we are going to adjourn in Aldo Paneshi's name. I feel like most of you in this room knew who Aldo is and was, but certainly to say that he was a pillar in the community and his hand in everything that was happening is an understatement. He did work humbly. He was a gracious servant, and was very generous with his time and his resources, and he's really missed in our community. So we're coming up on a year of his passing, and I know that we all feel the loss in the community. So Councilmember Haddishout had the idea of adjourning in his name this evening as a special tribute to him, and we were fortunate enough to have his wife and his daughter join us. So on that note, I will adjourn in Aldo's name out of respect for him and his family and his contributions to Roseville and Placer County, and let you all know that we will be meeting again June 4th for our regular council meeting at 6 p.m. Thank you.